Hello friends! Welcome to Mr. Snail's Wild Ride. I am Mr. Snayl, and the wild ride is my life so far. A while back I read and reviewed The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, and this book really changed my outlook on my ability to pursue, well, anything really, but primarily my own artistic interests. The book is divided up into 3 sections, and the middle one was the most powerful for me personally. It's devoted to this idea of the difference between amateurs and pros, as the author defines them. Amateurs are people that pursue their artistic interests as a hobby on the weekends when they have a chance. Whereas pros, it's their main endeavor. They treat it like a job, the way we treat our day jobs in everyday life. And he has this whole list of characteristics. We show up every day, we go there whether we want to or not, if we're sick or if we're tired, whatever it is. We stay there all day, we don't over-identify with our jobs, and so on and so forth. And this whole idea was a real eye-opener for me. What'd you think of that? Madsound, right? I took this creative writing class when I was an undergrad, and the one thing that I remember from this class 25 years ago was this offhand remark the professor said. Writers write whether they feel inspired or not. And when they look back at their prose, they can't tell the writing that they did when they were inspired apart from the writing that they did when they were not inspired. They can't tell the difference. I didn't have any clue about what a writer's life was like, or could be like. I mean, I didn't know what anybody's life was like. I didn't know anything about anything. I had fantasies, and that was really it. This idea just stuck with me for a couple of decades, and I didn't know if I agreed with it or not. It just hung in there. You hear people say, they'll look at an artist's work, whether it's a painting or a sculpture or whatever it is, they'll ask the artist, oh, what was the inspiration for that piece? Or they'll just react to it and say, oh, such and such was so inspired. These kinds of comments, they don't fit together with another idea about working on something regardless of whether or not you're inspired. These things just don't fit together. I couldn't forget this concept that this professor mentioned. I didn't know what to do with it, which is no surprise, considering that I'm someone that's always had a hard time working, even when I've been inspired. But it does make sense in the context of Pressfield's idea, where you have to take these principles from your workaday life and apply it to your approach to your artistic endeavors. You go to work whether you feel like it or not. You usually get stuff done even when you're sick or distracted. That can be true of your artistic work as well. So there was the connection, the hook to hang this idea on of writing when you're inspired or uninspired. Pressfield basically told me what to do with it, what context it belonged in. There were numerous moments that I encountered reading that book that were inspiring or enlightening to me, more than I can recall individually, but that was a big one, a very distinct one. And it was one that compelled me to take action, and that was to establish a daily routine. And I did that before I was even finished with the book. So I started writing something every morning. It may sound obvious, but it helped me produce. Before, I was really only ever able to produce short pieces from prompts within a very structured framework and a very finite deadline. This practice of going to work every day has allowed me to develop my own story, actually. I'll grant that it's a fan fiction piece. The main characters are not original characters, but the setting is an original idea. And the plot is an original plot. There are primary and secondary characters that have to be moved around, like you would move around characters in your own story. And it's up to about 12 chapters now, and I've never done anything like that before. Ever. It's a huge step from where I was just a few months ago. It's not like I have everything solved. There are still some obstacles. I don't succeed every single day. Sometimes I don't make it into work. I'll oversleep. An emergency will happen. Be out of town. I'll have an early appointment. Sometimes in those instances I can get up earlier, but it doesn't always work out that way. I'm really looking forward to having a dedicated space to work in. Right now I'm using the dining room table, and a lot of times my time is up when the battery in the laptop runs out. We've cleared a space upstairs in my office for this, but there are still some logistical things I'm trying to figure out, like, I have 2 or 3 cups of coffee when I'm working, and there's no kitchen upstairs to make the coffee in, and so I don't know if I want to make the coffee downstairs and take a bunch of it upstairs. I don't know if I want to go up and down all the time, all that kind of silliness. So I'll figure it out eventually, but right now it's still in process. All those complaints aside, nevertheless, this is a humongous leap forward for me. It's the longest habit I've been able to maintain in several years, and creatively, before it was mostly just me saying, I wish I could blank, and I have practically 0 examples of anything creative that I completed. A couple of remixes that I did for some friends, or maybe a few things from before everything bad happened 20 years ago. So I'll take it, I'll take it. So, what have been the game changers in your lives? They don't have to be big external epiphanies. They could be little realizations, little duh moments, or they could be giant external, why didn't I think of that kind of ideas, creative or otherwise. Let me know in the comments below. Share, we're in this together, man. So thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. If you enjoyed this, be sure to click like. We'll see you next time. A while back, I read and reviewed The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. Pursue their artistic endeavor, well, anything really, but primarily my own artistic interests. And the book itself is divided, the book itself is divided up into 3 sections, and the middle one was the most impactful for me. I can't believe I just said that word. Oh. It's devoted to this idea, you could say some degree of structure, or with before I was really only ever right now it's still in process. So I'm curious, have there been any major game changes? So, have you had any game-changing epiphanies or knowledge breaks? Knowledge breaks, what does that even mean? Share, we're in this together, man.